Hello, this is James George with Creative Beacon. Today I'm going to show you some tips about type in Photoshop. Working with type in Photoshop is pretty simple, but there are a few tricks to save you a little bit of time and make working with type a little easier. And so, for example, you take the type selection tool and select your text. Hold down the Shift key. If you double click the typeface name in the top here, you can use the up and down arrows to cycle through text. If you have your text selected like this, and you hold down the Alt or Option key, you can use the left or right arrows to adjust the tracking and kerning of your letters. As you can see, left and right can change them. If you have the same text and it's selected, you have two lines of text, you can adjust the leading. So if you hold down the Alt or Option key, use the up and down arrows, down will increase the leading, your up arrow will decrease the leading and make it tighter. So your lines of text will be tighter. And let's say you have a line of text here. Let's say you want to manipulate it and do something with it. One example would be to convert your text to a smart object. There's a couple of different reasons you want to do this, and I'll show you why. So let's say you make this a smart object and you want to run a filter on it. Let's say you do a motion blur at 25 pixels. Okay, so you could barely make out that says beacon, but bear with me. So if you double click this little smart object icon, click OK, you can, and this Photoshop will open up a temporary Photoshop file. With that text selected, you can change it to something else. And then when you're done, you just hit save, and it will update it. And you can see that it's updated the text. Another reason that you'd want to make it a smart object is because this motion filter is too much. And you don't want to have to undo everything. If you get so far into your project and it's not what you want and you want to make adjustments, you don't have to do it all over again. So when you create a smart object and run a filter on it, it creates smart filters. And so all you have to do is go down to the smart filters layer and double click it, and you can it'll bring the menu back up and you can make an edit to it. So let's decrease that to 15. Hit OK. And so now we'll go back and change the text back because it's been cut off. Save. And you can edit the text quickly and easily. Another thing that you can do with your text, and this isn't as well known as some tricks. I haven't heard a lot of people talk about this. Is you can warp your text. And I'll increase the text size here so you can see it a little bit better. If you hold down Command or Control, Alt or Option, Shift, and the greater than and less than keys can increase and decrease the size of your type. So I'm using the less than symbol to increase the size of my type. I'll put it there in the center. And so now we'll click Warp Text, and what will happen is this style section will come up, and you have several presets here, like arc, arc lower, arc upper, arch, bulge. See, I kind of like this one because it uniformly rounds out the top and bottom of your text. Trying to do that manually would be a pain. But having a little preset here that will do that is really handy. Shell lower, shell upper, flag, wave, fish. Now I like fish. To me it seems more like a 3D flag than the actual flag warp filter does, because it sort of waves in, out and then back in like a flag. So it's sort of like a three-dimensional wave thing. I think that's a pretty neat effect. And you've got the others, rise, fisheye, inflate. And so, or you can create your own distortion, which you can bend it vertically or horizontally. So you could do the fish thing, but warp it vertically. So there's another example of the bulge being done in a vertical way. And so that's just an example of being able to manipulate your type. There's also type on a path. And so I'll show you how to do that. It's pretty easy. If you just take a shape tool, such as, let's take the ellipse tool. Let's just draw the circle. We'll center that. We'll grab our text tool. And if you type out, if you're going to use your text tool on a path, when you hover over it, it will change to a little squiggly line. And so you click on that, and then you can type your text on your path. And I'll lower the size of the text. Now, you can see that it's not oriented exactly how we want it. And so if you hold down your Command or Control key, depending if you're on a Mac or a PC, you'll get that little, you can see the forward and back arrow. And that tells you that you can shift the text around the path. And so just click it and drag it. And there you can see that the text switched to be rounded at the bottom and follow the path. And so if we hold down our Alt or Option key, hit the right and left arrows, we can increase the space in between the type. Go back and hold the Command or Control key, and we can, we can shift the text around. You can see that there are two controls, and depending on how you shift them around is how the text will behave. So if you want the text to behave a certain way, then you just have to click and drag these lines, and that will shift how the text behaves. You can see it's kind of funky to play with, but just depends on how you use it. And so now you've got your text there at the bottom following the path. You can type it around the whole path if you want to. You just got to remember that, like this little X here is your stopping point. If your text disappears, you can just click and drag that out. And you can see more. And you can increase and decrease the size of your text. And so, for example, here, I typed out, beacon is great and I love it. And so that comes full circle. And so you can see that's perfectly around a circle. Trying to do this manually would be impossible, but that's why Type on the Path is so great. Well, I hope that helps you out with working with Type in Photoshop. I'm James George, and this is Create a Beacon.